Sarasota show. Fantastic guest tonight. I know you're absolutely going to enjoy my guest, Jack Alexander. Jack lives here in Sarasota. Came here about 3 years ago. He and his wife, Dr. Zizi, are world travelers. They've been all over the place. Lived in Hawaii and in Asia and just all over really. Jack is an artist and a shaman. And some of his work hangs in places like Desmond Tutu, the Archbishop of in South Africa, mm-hmm. and also Dustin Hoffman. And so he's an artist really of note. And you're known as Golden Feather also, right? I want to introduce.
That was my
Jack
shamanic name. Yes, that was given to me.
And that was given to you in some ceremony?
It was after my shamanic initiation. I lived 8 months on the reservation, Waters End Reservation, which now doesn't exist, and they changed the parameters.
Where was that at?
The northern hills of Nevada, but it was actually south of Las Vegas.
So you're basically an American Indian shaman, or
I was
how does
taught
that work?
in the Lakota tradition, but
okay.
But shamanism has got nothing to do with. It's all indigenous understanding. Is
right.
Shamanic understanding.
Right.
The original cave painters, and they painted in the caves of France, and the Europe's were the original shamans, and they taught by observation of nature what was going on for them in everyday life, and that's where shamanism came into play, as the actual seeing of things and interpreting the symbols of what they saw. So when they saw things happening in the heavens or the skies that they didn't understand, they put it on into plates, and then they had visitations or dreams about it. This went on the walls as well.
Gotcha. One of my guests, I think it was last week, or last night, a couple nights ago, got involved with shamans in Peru and went there specifically for the ayahuasca, mm-hmm. And got herself in just a world of trouble down there. In your shamanic practice, do you use natural plants and like ayahuasca?
No. The whole point of shamanism is to connect with your inner being, your inner self. They call it your great spirit, the great spirit that lives within you and nature. They don't hold any more reverence for the two-legged, which is all they refer to as humanity, to either any animal or plant or mineral. Their teaching is, in fact, that we are the cellular memory of everything that preceded us.
So that's interesting, and I'm sure that's true, but how do these different sects, because that's what it seems like we're talking about, we have the shamans of Peru that are into the plants and things, and there's native Indian shamans, and you've got, you have shamans in Australia, right. And they all have kind of a little different right. views.
That the views are like religions. You take this one religion like Christianity and the various branches off of that you have. It comes down to our basic understanding that any tree, its root system is 2/3 to 3/4 the size of what you see above the ground.
Right.
Above the ground, from one trunk, you've got many branches, many aspects of teaching the same thing, which is a good thing.
Well, but religions don't teach the same thing. Matter of fact, they teach very diverse kinds of things.
Yeah, but I'm talking, we were saying as far as Christianity. I agree with what Einstein said. Einstein said that arts, science, and religion all stem from the same tree, just different branches.
Absolutely.
They're all the same. Chemicals, mathematics, the arts, the visualization, the expression of the future, the vision, and the actual understanding of what the worshiping of that is. It's not something that's an experience outside your existence. It's something that empowers you within your existence. And so when people are taking the ayahuascas and they're taking, Native Americans did peyote and tobacco.
Right.
But it was done under the auspices of the shaman, and it was done to facilitate only for those that could not cross over on their own.
Gotcha.
So it was a stimulus, and it was a way of, the shaman never left the novice alone or the initiate alone. You're always there present. But sometimes you let the initiate know that you're leaving, but when you go and enjoy your journey.
Right.
And express it, and I'll be watching. And if you ever need help, just hold out your hand and I will touch you and ground
Bring you back, ground you.
Ground you. So that's basically what the different drugs are. But as far as shamanic teaching, you'll find that there's very little difference. A shaman, for example, in the tropics, is going to have a different set of shamanic understandings about their observation than someone that is in the desert.
Right.
Or someone that's in the Tibetan mountains, in the Himalayas. But the teachings of Great Spirit, that Great Star Nation, that we're all made of the same essence, which is from Great Spirit and the Great Mystery and the Void, all things become sentient through that process, no matter what it is.
Well, that's, it's so obvious people miss that.
That's right.
It's so obvious. It could not be any other way.
Right. People say, how could it be that simple?
Yeah,
because it is.
Because it is simple.
You want to fractal it out for yourself, and you want to disempower yourself and buy into something that is at best secondhand information if it doesn't come from within you. Einstein said true intelligence is not the knowledge, but your imagination.
As a matter of fact, you said that's probably the most powerful thing, and without question.
That's right. He himself said it.
Yeah, and they talk about in the Christian religion about God made man in his image. I would suggest God made man in his imagination.
Well, there's the image.
Well, the image resulted from
sure.
Exactly.
Yeah, and when you go into the chemical and the what collective consciousness is, and what they're finding out now about everything, with the telescopes we have, any aspect of life that we perceive as absolute is only an aspect of a tree that's ever growing, ever rooting, kind of like a banyan tree.
Uh-huh.
You can take one banyan tree, in 250 years you've got a rainforest.
Yeah, it's huge.
Well, they just keep
right on going.
Their branches grow into root systems, their root systems root up and grow with it. They're an amazing tree.
In the 50s, there was a physicist who said there were really only two things in the whole of everything: viewpoints and points to view.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you break it all back down, it really gets about that simple.
That's right, and it fits this way. It doesn't collide.
Do you think that the reason for all this separation really comes down to misuse of power, man wanting to be, have heads up over somebody else and, have their knowledge over somebody else? I mean, where does all that come in?
I would say that comes from what we're taught. We are taught, I know I was, you were, in our generation.
Well, yeah, but who taught the first guy? You see, somewhere...
That's what I'm saying, that who did teach the first guy?
Right.
Right? Now, if the first person that taught this was the one that was the lie. It was the way of controlling. If people were not as concerned about making a decent living for themselves and more concerned about living their making, this world would change overnight.
Sure, but that once again, from my viewpoint, that's misuse of power.
Well, it is misuse of power, but the power that is misused can also be used properly.
Well, yeah.
It's simply a matter of choosing and reconfiguring the stimulus and the points of reference.
And I'm with you on that 100%. How do we do that?
You do it by empowering yourself from within and not looking for the answers outside yourself.
Agreed. Now, how do you get enough people motivated to do that where there's a shift? Because right now, the opposite of that really is the overriding influence on all of culture.
Well, that's why the shift's coming. The planet we're living on is sentient. She's a living organism.
Right.
We think free will is based on humanity. Weather's got free will. Animals have free will. Everything is free will.
Yeah.
And it's again in the image and likeness of God. The ability to choose anything and know that all it is a choice that can be changed at any time.
Right.
We are not stuck in our beliefs unless we choose out of fear to be stuck in them, because there's no way out. Then you've created your box mentality, and that's how people were able to. The guy who had the biggest bat and bashed someone's club and hit somebody and did horrible things to the person, and people that were witnessing became afraid of this guy.
Sure.
But it doesn't mean this guy was the toughest guy on the block. This is that he became the one that people bowed down to, and he made himself this, that, or the other thing.
Right.
That's how things got perverted, is out of fear. Yeah, and out of the misconception of what life is for. Life is for the living. It's not to be lived in fear, it's to be lived in joy, it's to be lived in prosperity. It's prosperity not being...
Prosperous is what you're talking about.
Prosperous.
You don't have to be the richest guy in the block. Because that's
Well, the richest guy in the block is the one that's got the best health.
That's the way
Not
I
the
see
one
it.
that's got the biggest bank account.
Yeah.
Because if you look at what's going on with all the people that have got all the money, what's happening to them? What happened to Mubarak? He dying a painful death. What happens to all these people that have got disease upon disease upon disease? Dis-ease of the physical body is the body not at ease.
Right.
So the way you get back to getting people reprogrammed through their own stimulus, their own chemical, is not to give them a one-size-fits-all, but give them a understanding to re-listen to their inner voice, their divine, their almighty being,
Right.
and listen to it and start interacting with that process, not expecting to control anything.
You're a teacher, and I can see that. I mean, you talk about it, but I can feel it, I sense it, I know you're a teacher. People tend to need a methodology to make the shift. When I think about any changes that have occurred within me and in the outer change, what really occurred, maybe a little trauma started it,
Sure.
some pain usually,
Sure.
it gets me up. But what really occurred is I dropped something that I believed and started to believe something different, which gave me a different viewpoint and then a different experience. And everything seems to come out of that whole experience, everything.
I agree.
What methodology do you use to catch people's attention to really help them make that shift?
Empowerment. To get them out.
I understand that,
but that's how you do it.
But how do you? I mean, the words aren't enough.
No, so you give them, you take them on a journey.
Okay, that's what I'm at.
But it's a verbal journey.
Tell me about
sitting across from you at a table.
Tell me about the journey. Can you do that comfortably?
Yeah, sure.
Because I think it's hugely important for
Yeah.
anybody who's listening. Do you work with one-on-one with people?
Yes, I work one-on-one in small groups.
Okay, what's that email address?
We're at Yohl, that's YOHIEL, at yahoo.com. Or you can call and ask questions at the phone number, area code 941-359-9222, and we'll be repeating that.
Okay, now, before we go to that question, I had this question, probably doesn't mean anything. Where'd you get the email name? It's significant somewhere, I know it is.
Yeah, well, it's what was given to me before I became shaman. I had a reconnection with my twin flame spirit energy.
Was that through your near-death experience?
No, this was my near-death experience. I went back to where I know I originated from, and others. Most of us originate from that place. It's not always it's not my experience, but it's the collective experience that's this kind of place. So when I show things like this,
But we're talking about Yohl also now.
I know, but this is in relation to that. If you'll see in the center there, right here, that's the Yohlian presence, and it is within everything, as what others would call God, or all of that. A lot of my paintings have this same feeling. It starts for me through the vision, which I've had since I was born.
So before we go there, and I want to talk about that, let's go back to the journey. No, I took you there. It's my fault. Go ahead, proceed with you.
Yeah. So the way I had the experience with Yohl in 1992, and I thought I was dreaming because I do lucid dreams. So But when I saw my dog and my cat interacting with this presence, then I realized
Oh, that's interesting.
who it was and that I was very much awake.
Right.
And I didn't get back to sleep and stayed up, and I got over a period of some months prior to going to seek my shamanism, which I didn't really wasn't really seeking it. That was another event. But I mean, I understood that I got these dictates. They were, I would say, different individual pieces of paper. They probably covered maybe 4.5 inches.
Wow.
And I was told to bury them. They were only for me. And that at some point in time, which this is part of it, I'm reaching that point in time with
Right.
the Sunday services, which we'll talk about at the end of the show, that I'm doing it on consecutive Sundays to do with this piece of paper here that I gave you with regards to what empowerment is. Empowerment is letting people understand that there is no sin that isn't forgiven. There is no karma that you have to come back into another life to live, to experience, to get it right. Because when you get it right, and you lived your life, whatever it is, in the grace and unconditional love of God, of divine order, that's all there is.
Yeah.
So it's like having all the dust that's on this table.
There's no dust on my
not
table.
that it's dusty. I'm just saying, or the grain. Pretend this is all the grains of sand on a beach.
Yeah, right.
Right? You go out to Siesta Key, powder sand.
Right. Crystal quartz.
Right. Every grain of sand on that beach, you take one little grain of sand off that beach. That one little grain is the totality of all of that beach.
Yeah, and the universe.
And everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? Mm-hmm. Self-contained. Mm-hmm. That's the image and likeness of the grain of sand, the individual grain of sand, you and me, on the beach.
Okay. With that in mind, your wife's a psychologist, right?
Can I finish this one?
I'm sorry.
One thing.
Yes.
So, if indeed that's true, and I believe it is, it would be ludicrous for one grain of sand to say to another grain of sand, my way of living is true because of who I believe in, or the laws that I follow, or the praying that I do. It's ludicrous. Every grain of sand is individually different, yet every grain of sand in its individual composition is indeed the totality of all the beach. It's just points of reference on the board.
I couldn't agree more, and I think you're absolutely 100% right on.
Yeah.
But the pragmatic problem here is, so most people you tell that to, and it will be like bouncing off their forehead, or they'll believe it but not be able to. And this was my point here: not be able to initiate it in their behavior.
I would say that 80 to 85% of the people that come and see me, this is by their own mouth, not mine.
I'm with you.
Get it, because of the way I empower them not to believe what I'm saying, but to give them time to listen, to relearn how to listen to the voice going on. And I can read body language, so when someone is doing this with their eyes, and I said, you're thinking about it.
Right, feel it.
What do you feel right now about what I just said? And let them say what it is. I think it's absolute BS. The reason you feel it's BS is because of what? And then they start espousing their beliefs. And I said, does those beliefs make you feel joyous? And let them respond. I don't judge anything. I work within the response and take them down the rabbit hole.
Right.
Till where they get to the bottom and they wake up.
Perfect. That was what I was looking for. So people would get a real sense of the reality of what you can do.
Yes.
And so what we did was give them a visual and an audio.
That's right.
And we need that.
That's right.
To be able to, how many books are out there? We read books and we get all this wisdom, but it's that real stuff.
Yeah, and it's like one of the questions that I have written down here, which we've hit on. It becomes how do I know that or what would I say the difference about the way I operate as opposed to all the books that have been written?
Right.
Well, I've been there and done it, if you will.
Yeah.
My near-death experience in 1976.
Tell us about that.
I went over a 20-foot cliff, very heavily sedated.
Well, wait. When you say heavily sedated, what does that mean? You were drugged up, okay?
I was drugged up and
Gotcha.
alcoholed up, and
Gotcha.
none of us knew that we're biking
Right.
were motorbikes or motorcycles, knew that they had built a 6-lane freeway called Mount Rose Freeway. And I went over 20-foot embankment.
Oh, boy.
And landed on my head several times. Got out, looked at my bike, saw it was total. I just put about $3,000 into it.
Right.
Went over to cussing and being just who I am, seeing a cop car with a siren on, screaming by the opposite side of the street. And I knew he was going to make a U-turn whenever he could, and he was calling because of the accident.
Right.
My 2 buddies are now 20 feet up, stopped their bikes, and they're coming down the hill. They saw the cop too. So I hear Tiny and Leon Cross saying, "Oh, we're going to get busted now. We are also intoxicated and polluted with drugs. They are going to nail us to the wall." Blah, blah, blah. And I said, yeah, right. And I said, "Look at my bike." And I used some vernacular. And I went to kick my bike, and my foot went right through it. And I kind of went, "Oh, man, I'm really tripping."
Yeah, well, that would be a natural reaction.
Yeah, I'm really tripping. Because I had not yet looked behind me. So my 2 buddies, they're coming down and saying, "Oh, man, look at him. He's bloody. He's dead. Look at him. He's dead." I said, yeah, before I could say dead, Tiny, who was about 6'8" and weighed about 400 pounds, ran right through me. And the feeling was like taking in a big hit of oxygen and yet being pulled out the opposite end of myself. Yeah, and then I realized, now I'm not, something's up. And I turned around and looked and saw my body laying on the ground.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
What did that do to you?
At the time, psychologically, at the time, what it did to me was let me realize it, because the first thing I did was, I don't know if I was speaking it, but I was thinking it. This is me, because I'm still here, I'm still conscious, I'm still breathing as far as I know, I'm definitely still seeing. Touching me, I felt physical. I felt physical.
Right.
I was still me, so if this is me.
That's interesting.
What was that?
Right.
Who's this?
Right.
If this is me, who's that?
Right.
And then the ambulance came and everything, the whole thing, and I was pronounced dead in the ambulance, but because of California law, they had to try to revive me for another 45 minutes at the hospital.
Fortunately.
And I was dead, so they couldn't revive me. Went to the other side. My grandmother's voice is what I heard. I'm in the...
Was that what kind of drew you?
Yeah, I was in the emergency ward, and I heard the voice, "Jackie, Jackie." I said, "Grandma." Now, mind you, my grandmother died when my mom was 16. I was conceived by my mom when she was 27.
Oh, wow.
So I never met my grandmother. I never knew what her voice sounded like, and I only saw black and white photographs of her.
That's interesting.
Okay? But I recognized her voice. So a question. I said, "Grandma." I turned around. There she was. She was floating, as I was, above, like we were looking at a movie. It was like looking at a hologram. We weren't the hologram. We were looking at the hologram is what the experience was for me.
Right.
That I realized that this can't be reality if what I'm experiencing, still feeling as me, is reality. So Grandma took me to the other side, and it was through tubes and various things. You ever see Contact?
Sure.
Well, you'll realize that was Carl Sagan, who never saw the end of his movie made.
No, he didn't. No.
He died. But that was his near-death experience. And that was exactly what mine was, that I was talking to people about in 1976, 20 years before the movie. And all these bringers of the dawn and the Celestine prophecy I read, and I said, this is a crock. This is not the way it is on the other side.
Right, because I've been there.
Yeah, it isn't this way. It's a personalized experience of like going, you're walking, but it's hard to explain. You're walking and without being balanced, but it's very gelatinous. There's nothing that is solid, yet you're viewing it as being solid. You go in these tubes, and the tubes go everywhere. You're going to the same source. And when you get there, where you're at and where your collective is, which is what the shamans teach about collective consciousness, is there's groups of collective consciousness that all work together, which is what creates great spirit. Yeah.
It would be great to show some pictures here.
I was just about to Time got right away from us here. We were just having too good a time.
Oh, right.
So right now, Jack is going to show you some of his artwork. Also, tell you, he has some of he's done in prints, and you'll be able to get this wonderful art for like $29. It's just, how about showing us some of what you do?
I'm going to get.
Now, evidently, what happens is is in his shamanic experience, he gets visions, and the visions become your art. Is that
Pretty much where the visions come from within. People that have seen me paint, all these that I'm going to show are all from Starbucks.
Okay.
People that have
So
seen,
when you're at Starbucks, you're painting.
I'm painting and doing counseling, shamanic counseling work with people that make appointments with me. I've got
Very
my own. It's almost like I've got my own table. That's
So it's almost like you got your own roadshow.
pretty much.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. What day is that?
It's Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
What time?
From 12 until dusk.
I'm gonna have to come and see you. Which Starbucks?
The one on Tuttle and off of University. It's
Right.
in the University Walk Shopping Center.
Yep.
2805 University Parkway.
Cool.
Yeah. But it's
You
in the
want
shopping
to
center.
be sure and give that a shot if you're up in the area at that time. I guarantee it's got to be interesting.
And you can always call phone number 941-359-9222 to get the directions.
And it's better to book an appointment.
Cool.
To call that number first rather than just show up. I don't mind you just showing up, but you're not going to know how much it is and anything. I don't want you.
A picture's worth 1,000
Yeah,
words.
yeah. So having said that, these are a series that
Is that like a mandala?
it's a chakra painting. This is the crown chakra.
Oh, very cool.
See, this would
Yeah.
on the sheet. There's information where this is the crown chakra.
Uh-huh.
Now I'm working down the chakras. This is the third eye chakra.
Right. Do you use these in your work with the chakras?
I do.
Okay.
Yes.
Because the visual helps them.
Right. This is the throat chakra.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking your personal truth. Can't speak it if you don't know it. Which is what
Well, most people don't know that.
Well, that's why I help empower them. They do find it.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is the heart chakra. I'm saying chakra, it's chakra.
Right.
This is the solar plex chakra. It's this area. This is the sacral chakra. And this is the base chakra. Now I have the $29.95 prints that I have. Here's the base chakra.
Uh-huh. These are nice, really nice prints, too.
Mm-hmm.
folks. It's
They
like-
really are.
Yeah.
On the back, it's got a letter of authenticity.
Uh-huh. All signed by...
Right. By me. And, excuse me for moving, but I have to bend over here to get this.
Well, that's okay. They get a break.
There we go. And this is a sheet that comes along with that gives you, depending on what chakra you need to work with, I would give you this sheet when you purchase one of these for the $29.95. And I do have the nickels don't have to worry about you'll get your nickel back if you want it. But this will give you explanation how to meditate.
Right.
To these particular, the whole procedure for it.
So do you have a package thing where they
Yeah.
can get the portraits and you? Or not the portraits, but the
The-
prints and you?
Yeah,
In other words...
Jack will be at the Mystic Fair Saturday, July 28th at Sarasota Municipal Auditorium, and there he's giving away $10 coupons for anyone who gets readings at the fair, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., and the $10 coupons will be for $10 off of his artwork.
What other places do you have Jack at? Is that all of the...
Well, the most important is the invitation that Jack is making for people to join him Sundays for service sharings in what he calls Temple of Divine Order, which is at the Dwarf Garden Picnic area. Perhaps Jack could hold up one of his homeworld pieces while I'm explaining that Ringling Museum estate grounds are open at no charge that day. So Jack will be at the Dwarf Garden Picnic areas, no entry fee.
Tell our viewers
5401
where that-
Bayshore Road.
Okay, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
There's
This coming Sunday and every consecutive Sunday. Here's Homeworld. This is a scene of the other side.
Unfortunately, we have hit the limit of our time.
alrighty.
Did we hit the main points?
Yes.
We have anything we left out here, Dr. Zizi, that's like really important?
Just more of Jack's artwork if he can hold up
Well,
his
all right.
Homeworld pieces as we
Okay.
as we
Well,
close.
Well, there really isn't. There's
There's no more time.
No, we're kind of dead in the water at this
All
point.
right.
So listen, I had a great time with our guest, our shaman artist, Jack Alexander, and there's some great places you can go. And listen, I'm sitting next to this guy. He's a real deal. Give him a shot. Got a great guest next week. Be sure to come back. And in the meantime, don't forget to accentuate the positive and have a fantastic week.
God bless all of you.
There you go.